Hey everyone, it's Amir from the IB Wizards here, and in this episode we're going to be covering the next steps in creating your IB Physics lab write-ups. So the topics we're going to be covering in today's episode is the creation of your process data table, so that'll include measurement uncertainty and total uncertainty. And we're also going to be going over the creation of your graph, so that'll include getting the line of best fit, going over error bars, and max-min slopes. So last week, Sharon covered the creation of the raw data table, along with getting your averages and repeated trial uncertainty. And so keep in mind that the raw data table shouldn't include averages and repeated trial uncertainty. It should only include your data along with your tool uncertainties. So we're going to start off by just taking the components of the raw data table and pasting it aside for now. So the next step in creating your process data table is deciding what your measurement uncertainty is. And so keep in mind that the measurement uncertainty, unlike the tool uncertainty, is going to also include forms of random or systematical error. So for volume in this case, I might say that the tool uncertainty doesn't account for the human error associated with these measurements. And so I might decide that the uncertainty is more around plus or minus 1 milliliter. So I do the same thing for temperature. I'd say that maybe the readings of the digital thermometer were fluctuating, and so we actually only know the temperature up to plus or minus 1 degree. And so don't forget that we have to precision match based on these new uncertainties. And so we go ahead and select all the data that we have. We go ahead and go to format cells, and we go to 0 decimal places to precision match. Okay, so the next step is getting your total uncertainty. And so your total uncertainty is going to be the sum of your measurement uncertainty along with your repeated trial uncertainty. And remember that it'll be expressed in one significant figure. So we can go ahead and do 0 equals 1 plus this cell, and we can go ahead and copy it all the way, and then we can go ahead and say that we want it to 0 significant figures. And so that's how we get the total uncertainty. Okay, so the next step is creating the graph. So just to keep everything kind of clean, we're going to go ahead and go to a new sheet. You're going to go to Insert. You're going to go over to the area with charts, click this one, the scatter plots, and click this first one. You're then going to right click, go to Select Data, go to Add, Series X Values, go to Sheet 1, and go ahead and choose your independent variable data. In this case it would be the temperature. And then go ahead and choose your Y value, and so they should be your averages. And go ahead and click OK. So you can go ahead and make your graph bigger. Okay, so if your data is linearized, the next step you're going to want to do is to add the line of best fit. So you're going to go to the Design tab after clicking on the chart. You're going to add chart element, trend line, and linear. If your data isn't linearized, then please refer to the video we're going to make on linearizing your data. Okay, so the next step is going to be adding your axes titles. So go ahead and click on the chart, go to Design, add chart element, axes titles, primary horizontal, and primary vertical. So obviously your horizontal will be your independent variable. So in this case, I would put temperature in Kelvin, and your vertical should be your independent variable, your dependent variable. In this case, it's your volume in milliliters. And so you should also add a title, and so in this case I'm going to do volume as a function of temperature. So your next step is going to be adding your error bars. So again, you're going to click on the chart, go to design, add chart element, and go to error bars. And go to more error bar options. So then you're going to go to the error bar options again, go to custom, and notice how we're on vertical error bars. So you're going to press specify value, and you are going to be choosing the total uncertainty associated with your dependent variable. So I would go ahead and highlight all 5 because I have 5 values, go to negative, and do the same thing. And that'll give us our vertical error bars. You're then going to go to this little arrow and go ahead and choose the horizontal error bars. And so here we know that we have an uncertainty of 1 degree associated with our temperature readings. And so we're going to go ahead and set a fixed value of 1. And so we can see that in this particular case, the error bars aren't too big relative to our data. Okay, so next we're going to figure out how to make our max and min slopes. So I went ahead and just made 2 areas for the max and min values that we're going to be using. And so you're going to go to the first cell, and you're going to set it equal to your lowest x value, okay, plus the uncertainty associated with it, so in this case plus 1. And then you're going to go ahead and take its corresponding average, so 291, so 291 minus its corresponding total uncertainty, so in this case 2. Okay, and so you're going to do the opposite for the greatest data point. So you're going to take your greatest x value, copy it, or just write it in, so 270, minus your uncertainty, so again, in this case it would be 1, and then here you would take its corresponding average value, so 413, plus its total uncertainty, so plus 2. Okay, so for your minimum slope, you're going to be doing almost the exact same thing, except in this case, you're going to be doing the opposite. So again, you take your lowest x value, except here you subtract by 1, take its corresponding average, and here you add by 1, or I'm sorry, by 2, total uncertainty. And so you take the greatest x and you add its uncertainty, add 1, take its corresponding average, and subtract 2. Okay, so now we need to somehow incorporate these data points into our graph. So we're going to go ahead, right click on the graph, select data, we're going to go to add, we're going to title this series name max, we're going to select our x values as these two, and we're going to go ahead and select our y values as these two. Hit OK. Okay, so now you need to add a trend line, so you're going to go ahead and select the max data points. Make sure they're selected, go to design, add chart element, trend line, and linear. And so you're going to repeat this process for the minimum. So you're going to right click, select data, add, min, go to x values, you're going to select these two. As your y values, you're going to select these two, hit OK, OK. Now select your minimum data points, go to add chart element, trend line, and linear.